Hi, Gene with today's thought, and today's thought is going to be about what I say in the title, A Tale of Two Allies. I'm talking about the Middle East. Now, everybody knows about Israel. They're well known to be our ally, not only our ally, but our greatest ally in the Middle East. And I would just say our greatest ally, period. The reason I would say that is I can't think of a single, there have been times when our other allies, such as Germany, France, England, have voted against us or not voted with us in the United Nations, but I'm not aware of Israel ever voting differently than the United States in the United Nations. To give one example, plus the intelligence help they give us and other help that they. The point is that they are a great ally of the United States, but they are not the only one. There is another country right next door to Israel, and that is Egypt. Now, I'll confess that ally might be too strong a word, maybe friend or great friend, but we cooperate with Egypt a lot, and Egypt is actually taking a big part in these negotiations between Israel and Hamas. Useless negotiations, I believe, but about the hostages, about some kind of deal to release the hostages, a deal that I predict that will not happen unless much more military pressure from Israel, which our country is trying to prevent, trying to save those last 4 battalions in Rafah. But I'm getting off the track here. What I want to, Israel gets some aid from the United States, mostly military aid, which is really just weapons that are made in the United States and that provide American jobs to Americans. Now, Egypt gets aid too, but Egypt, it's a totally different story. Their aid is the kind of to buy food, to buy bread, to the Egyptian economy, unlike the Israeli economy, is a disaster. And the Israeli economy, if they didn't have all these wars, this defense budget, they have be surrounded with enemies, they would not need aid from the United States. And they also would not need aid, it's not really well known, that for instance, they were developing their own jet fighter and not have to buy American jet fighters. And we pressured Israel not to develop their own fighters. So that is, well, I'm getting off on a track here. The comparison I'm trying to make is that Israel has done so many technological, medical advancements, and have come out, medical advances, science, engineering. They call it, Israel, you may have heard, is called a startup nation. Billions of dollars, private dollars, have been invested in Israeli companies. Warren Buffett, for instance, is one such investor, but a lot of high tech. Your computer, you can't, well, this is one of the ironies, because they use American computers in all these Arab countries, and probably Hamas is using computers. And if your computer runs on Windows, if it's an Apple computer, there is Israeli technology in those computers. So that's what they contribute. Meanwhile, Egypt contributes really nothing. They just suck up aid. And then we have, well, the contrast I want to make, I'm going to show you a video, a short article, then a video, but the difference, one difference between Israel and Egypt, which is that the Christian population in Israel has tripled since since Israel was reestablished after 2,000 years of occupation by one power after another. The Christian population has tripled in Israel, and meanwhile Christians are becoming extinct, almost extinct, throughout the rest of the Middle East. And one of those places where Christians are very threatened is our other friend, Egypt. And that's what I'm going to show you today. Now I'm going to show you, well, let's go right to the article. I'll show you, show you a headline, then I'm going to show you a video. Now here's the headline. Islamic extremists set fire to homes of Christians in southern Egypt. Around 11 p.m. on Tuesday, April 23rd, Islamic extremists set fire to several homes and shops owned by Coptic Orthodox Christians in Al Fawakir village in Saft Al Khamenei Al Garabia Minya government.
وفيتوا وفيتوا يا رجالة الله لا يغيبكم وفيتوا
حنا بدوا من خاب نلعن والده جينا هجدوا تدرون معنا تهجدوا معناتها نقطع النساء من نقل ونقطع يده جينا هجدوا
وفيتوا وفيتوا يا رجالة.
The attack occurred after word spread that residents of the village, which is home to 3,000 Christian families, had obtained a permit to construct a church building. Some associated with the church received threats after the building permit was issued, prompting Abda Makarios, Archbishop of Minya, to alert authorities. So what you have to know here, so they were given, some Christians wanted to build a church in their village. They got the permit to build the church, and there was the Muslims in the area rioted. They burned homes and they attacked the Christians. Now, the video I'm going to show you, well, the point, this is what's important. This is what's significant about this. They had the permit, okay, under Egyptian law, the Christians were allowed to build the church, but there's another kind of law. There's Sharia, there is Islamic law, and if you're not familiar with if you've never read the Quran, I have read the Quran, and not all of it, working my way through it, but a lot of it. And under Islamic law, you cannot build a church, okay? Not only can you not build a church, you cannot repair an existing church. So if it rains and your church roof leaks, you cannot repair it under Islamic law, under the Quran, and you cannot build a new one. So this is what I'm talking about. Islamic law, at least in some parts of Egypt, they trump the secular law, the Egyptian law. Now, this is the video I'm going to show you. This is important too. I'm going to show you a video. Now, in the middle of the night, they burned houses. This is earlier in the day. This is another video, but the same thing, same village, rioting over the church. But if you notice, if you look carefully, you're going to see some people standing around the edges, a few isolated men holding rifles. Those are plainclothes police officers, okay? Those are plainclothes authorities, and you can see what they're doing. And what they're doing is nothing. They are standing there doing nothing while Muslims are rioting and attacking Christians because they because they got a permit to build a church. Okay, they didn't even start building the church or build the church. They just got the permit, and there's always this riot because how dare the Christians in Egypt? How dare they try to build a church legally in Egypt? So I've set it up enough, and here's the video. Compare what you just saw to Israel, where the Christian population has tripled. and compare one. This is what I don't understand about, well, I do, because this administration is totally incompetent. But we have now, Biden is doing everything he can to prevent the Israelis from finishing off Hamas. And these are the kind of people that they are. Those are the kind of people that they are. Christians are not safe in Gaza. They are not safe in Gaza, and they are attacked sometimes in Judea and Samaria too, under the Palestinian Authority. But I'm not going to get off on a track on it. Maybe that'll be a future video. The point is that these are the kind of people that the Biden administration is trying to protect. And the final point I was going to make, or I will make, is that right now about 4,000, the Biden administration is pressuring Israel not to do anything in Rafah without evacuating or having a plan to protect the civilian population. Well, actually, the most logical, the simplest way to protect the population is to go into next door Egypt, to Sinai, and the Egyptians will not allow that because they don't want that. That's where you have Joe Biden talking about allowing Palestinians to just from Gaza to emigrate to the United States. Now, I have to mention, I've mentioned this in the past, I was a real estate broker. Yeah, I live in Tennessee, but in New York City, I had a lot of Arab customers, and I've met Palestinians. I know Palestinians. I've worked with Palestinians. So it's not a hatred of Palestinians. And there are some Palestinians who are being terribly oppressed by Hamas in Gaza who should be allowed in this country. But there are other ones who sympathize with Hamas or are in Hamas who should not be allowed into this country. And you have to vet these people to make sure you're letting in the ones who deserve to be in the country, the Palestinians that I know, who I knew, or like the Palestinians I knew, and not Hamas, not ones who are going to commit a terrorist act in our country. And Biden wants to let them all in without any vetting at all, and just let them all in. And that is a big mistake. But the point, as I always do, I often digress. The Sinai is right next door. And, the point I was making was that, so Biden wants to let them in the country. Egypt is right next door. They're fellow Arabs, and they don't want the Gazans coming into Egypt. But I mentioned all the foreign aid that Egypt gets from us. We could easily, by threatening to cut off that aid, pressure Egypt to let the guys and just go right next door. They're right there, just 5 minutes, cross right into the Sinai, and then tents could be provided for them, water, food, humanitarian aid, medical help. All that could be provided right there. And this administration will not do that. Instead, they don't pressure Egypt for anything. And you just saw what happens in Egypt to Christians, and they just put all the pressure on Israel. So as the old Jewish saying goes, go figure. And that's my thought for today. Thanks for stopping by. If you could subscribe, that would really be great. Share this video with anyone you think would benefit from it. But most of all, come back and see me again. I would love to see all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.